Begley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Here, please rise for the pledge, and I'll provide the opening remarks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a couple of agenda items today that pertain to our police and fire chiefs. I did want to take a moment, though, to recognize retired Sergeant Kevin Hausch of the Omaha Police Department. Police chief cannot be with us today because he's attending that funeral along with a lot of our police department representatives. So we want to thank that family for their service to our city. Their son is also a current police officer, Connor, and thank them for all they've done for the city of Omaha. Secondly, because I mentioned the fire chief, it's my understanding that it's the fire chief's birthday today.
Aw, happy birthday.
So I want to thank her for being with us on her birthday and wish her congratulations. And also because I'm talking about Chiefs, it's the Super Bowl this weekend. Go Chiefs.
Tell Connor is not going to be happy.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today. We look forward to hearing from you on our many items. I would encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate. If you have difficulty hearing the proceedings today, you can come down to our attendant here at the diocese for a listening device, or we also have the proceedings by closed caption in the back of the room.
Item 6, to consider a Class C liquor license for Mama's Pizza located at 715 North Saddle Creek Road.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
Hey, I'm Kevin Ames. I'm the new manager on the license, just here to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
And your address too?
715 North Saddle Creek.
Thanks. Any other proponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Begley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Kevin, good afternoon. You and I had a chat when this came through a few weeks ago. So Mama's Pizza, legendary pizza restaurant on North Saddle Creek Road. The first thing I got to ask is, the pizza and the menu going to be the same under your ownership?
Untouched, yeah.
Okay. That'll make a lot of people in Cathedral, St. Cecilia's Parish, and Midtown Omaha happy, including myself. So is the menu changing at all, and staff? What is the restaurant going to look like under your management?
Yeah, so the former owners have all retired as a family ownership group. I think like 3 siblings and then spouses. The company that I'm associated with, it's a company called Team Shares, and we buy, small, mid-sized companies and transition them to employee-owned. So in terms of the menu and things of that nature, nothing will change. Operationally, nothing will change. You'll walk in, it'll look the same. All employees will now share in the ownership of the company going forward. We've done this with a couple other restaurants in town, Vincenzo's, the Italian restaurant, and Donna Millie's.
Okay. And
which I'm on those licenses as well.
And you mentioned the Harwood family, and before that it was the Howell family, going back to the 70s. So your network of St. Cecilia's and Holy Name and all the different neighborhood people that love going there, are you still keeping the affiliations? Because I know on the wall you have a number 42 Cathedral High School football jersey that I donated a few years ago. The Hall of Fame wouldn't take it, but I gave it to Jeff Harwood. So are you going to keep all
the memorabilia? It's the next best thing outside the Hall of Fame, right?
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear everything's going to be the same, and I gave it a trial run yesterday. My union's negotiating our contract at OPPD, where I'm the vice president of my union, and we ordered 3 large combo and hamburger, and nothing changed. So I was just testing you to make sure, and I'm looking forward to you guys in the years to come, and I know the people in the neighborhood are glad it's not changing, so
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to support this today, Mr. President. Thanks, Kevin.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Mr. Hug.
I just see just these two Mama Pizza locations, but there is a couple of other Mama locations that are to-go only. Did you acquire those as well?
Yeah, there's 4 locations in total. There's 1 to go and 3 full service.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I was already at the La Vista City Council a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thanks.
Number 6.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Mama's Pizza West, located at 15615 Pacific Street, Suite 1.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please. Just your name and address again.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, want to provide that just for the record?
Okay. 715 North Saddle Creek.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. Any other proponents on number 7? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 8, an ordinance to rezone property located at 1401 William Street from GI District to CC District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 8 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved 7-0. Item 9, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate into that district the property located at 15230 West Maple Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 9 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, my name is Tracy Celine at 17656 Patrick Avenue, Omaha, and we had a conditional use permit, and the City Planning Department requested that we also apply for an MCC overlay. I don't know what information you need, so I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved
Thank you.
7-0.
Yep, thanks for being here.
Item 10, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate into that district the property located at 10707 Pacific Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 10 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion approved 7-0. Items 11 and 12 can be considered together for property located northeast of 180th Street and West Maple Road. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 11, an ordinance to rezone this property from DR District and MU District to MU District. Item 12, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to a mixed-use district development agreement for Maple 180 to allow for an expansion of the mixed-use area.
Public hearing and vote on items 11 and 12 are today. Proponents, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the developer and the development. This is simply a rezoning to conform to the underlying administrative plat that was approved by the planning board or planning department a while back. So I'm here for questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents on these items? Seeing none, any opponents? Donnie, you can't have props at the
Oh,
podium.
sorry, sir.
Okay.
Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and Northern Hawkins here in Citizen Foundation. I was just going to ask these gentlemen who's doing this, or are they gonna use this type of equipment screwing up our roads? I know that would work in Nigeria, but Al Vase, who was mayor one time in his little mom and pop grocery store, he told me, Johnny, if you're gonna be on the city council, do your own TV commercial. Don't worry about nobody else. Good luck, Ms. Johnson.
Are there any other opponents to these items? Seeing none, public hearings are closed.
Move the approval.
Motion and second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 11 and 12 are approved, 7-0. Items 13 through 15 can be considered together for corrective ordinances for property located southwest of 72nd and Farnham Streets to correct the legal descriptions. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on items 13, 14, and 15 are today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 13 through 15 are approved, 7-0. Item 16, a resolution to approve the 72nd Farnham Apartments Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located southwest of 72nd and Farnham Streets in an amount up to $6,336,412.
Public hearing and vote on item 16 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning. This site is located at 72nd Farnham, just a little bit south of the main library. It's being built. Looks like this today. We're looking for a new 5-story apartment building with 176 market rate units and 1 retail bay. Look like this. Developers Lawrence James, looking at a $43.5 million project. They're requesting $6,336,412 in TIF support. It complies with our master plan, densifies the city core, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Oh, I'm getting better. I have the first time. Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108. I am an opponent on item 16 today for TIF funding for 176 market rate units, and for several reasons. I do not feel that this project truly fits the TIF funding as it was originally designed by the Nebraska legislature. Another reason, Omaha has an affordable housing deficit of 30,000 to 40,000 houses. And however, before I continue, I am very aware that affordable housing is not a TIF requirement. But just because it's not a requirement, there's not a reason why this body of Omaha City Council could not install a requirement to have some percentage for affordable housing. Second or third, the project does not fit the primary objectives of the City of Omaha's master plan and community development, although it does fit the community development side. To encourage additional private investment and infill development within inner city neighborhoods, and to eliminate conditions which are detrimental to public health, safety, and welfare by developing vacant and underutilized property within the neighborhood. This project is not located in the inner city neighborhood, nor was it in a vacant or blighted area before the structures were torn down. Omaha's rent has increased by 9% according to the Zumper Rent Report. The City of Omaha issued over 3,000 residential building permits in 2023, with 63% for multifamily buildings. Multifamily buildings are outpacing single-family homes in development over the past decade. Rising rent paid prices and a surge in multifamily housing development has posed a challenge to affordable housing. On the slide, and which you have in your packets, it shows the rents for this particular project. According to the Zumper report, which is a real estate platform used by investors and realtors to find and list their traditional rental properties, the average one-bedroom apartment in Omaha is about $1,100 a month. In this project, a one-bedroom, not studio, a one-bedroom will be $1,650. Two-bedroom units are about $1,500 a month. And in this project, a two-bedroom will be $2,425 a month. According to the Omaha Tenant United says the surge in multifamily housing development impacts affordable housing in Omaha, and affordable housing remains a significant concern for the residents. Rent prices are rising, but not their salary or their job. Multifamily housing development provides affordable housing, could provide affordable housing. Because of this, according to Seth Coop, an organizer with Omaha Tenant United, he says developers want to keep making money off of community members. The supply of housing is not necessarily the problem. It's just that it's kind of an empty exercise to give more people the contracts to build more things and line the pockets of other people. TIF funding, although this project will meet the definition of what the city stated as the goals outlined in the concept element of the master plan, providing good quality housing option in a mixed pattern, it will not provide housing for mixed income or affordable. This project supports the vision of the urban design and transportation elements of the master plan, which calls for more dense, walkable transportation, mixed unit development in the vicinity of 72nd and Dodge. Although this project is aligned with the transit-oriented development goals recommended for the urban design, these are not the goals that was originally listed in the TIF program set up by the Nebraska legislature. As I said, I understand that affordable housing is not a requirement, but could it be something the city council could be looking at? They're not asking for 100%, just a small percentage to help out those everyday hardworking citizens. Omaha will never fully address its affordable housing problems when you continue to approve TIF projects like this. Although I know that this project will pass, I'm here today, as I said, as an opponent, to use my right to speak and have it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents to number 16?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I couldn't agree more with that lady who was very well spoken and researched. I live not real far from the crossroads, and I've got a number of concerns about it. About that whole area going clear to Pacific Street. Anybody that drives that area very often can see that you're up to something all the way on the east side of 2nd to Pacific. Some businesses have been boarded up and vacant for a long time. How does that happen? Maybe permits and inspection goes out and levies some fines and things on them that people can't afford, so they move out or they get driven out somehow. Along comes the city with the TIF financing. But only if the developers say, I won't build it without it. I can't do it without it. Taxpayers are getting fed up with that. The school systems lose revenue when you vacate properties for one reason or another. They go crying about it to us. That causes a tax increase whether you want to admit it or not. And when a business finally does get their tax increment financing, but gets the blighted value of those properties, somebody loses the revenue from that, and somebody has to make it up. 15 years from now, somebody gets it made up, excuse me, I can't afford my house anymore. 15 years from now, I'll be even higher. I don't think so. I think you're not telling us the truth that it does raise my property taxes one way or another. Pass it to the city school system if you care to, but most of us do not believe it. That's smoke and mirrors. The developers are also real estate people and construction companies. I can't do that. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and get it for nothing because I don't want to build it without TIF. Another reason is if you look on the south side, just very little space up the hill, or a lot of nice houses that are probably going to be disposed of for your development south of Dodge Street, across from those apartment buildings. That's part of the plan here. If 72nd Street is viable, why has those businesses all the way south to Pacific been vacated? Now, you're going to build how many new big 5-story apartment buildings? Do you think that 72nd and Dodge Street is going to handle all that congestion with the library? Oh, excuse me. Yeah, well, maybe because the crossroads may not get developed after all. How long has that been sitting vacant with prices going up? And I do think that the Attorney General of Nebraska is looking into this TIF scam. I think he's had some words about that. And you still haven't included the ad valorem word property taxes. Property taxes on who? Property taxes on only the new businesses that come in and build because that was leveled? Or property taxes of the people that live nearby? Which, with your infill program, that means residences across the street from the crossroads if it ever gets done. Now we're talking about another area off Leavenworth and 35th that I drove by today. I'm not a stranger to this. I've been checking it out. Now you want to do away with a nice park to go up Turner Park to Leavenworth and up that street past Marcy. You need to stop the scams and get more open and transparent about it, honest about it. Thank you.
Other opponents to number 16.
One last, Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. And I like Larry, what he was saying. I like this young lady, what she was saying. But I think about my friend, Mrs. Sally Rosen Novak, when they was around the corner and they moved to 114th and Dodge, and there was a lot of progress out of that. So sometimes things, you may not understand them at the time, because Mrs. Sally Rosen Novak and that family and Lady Bird Johnson gave me some of that Geritol, I knew I was going to be a great athlete.
Other opponents to number 16.
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. I just want to point out this rent schedule. The studios are at 1,100, and the one bedroom is at 1,650. So I don't know if you guys do the math. I'll show you really quick. monthly, how did you do this? So the studio is 1,100, and you want that to be 30% of your monthly income divided by 0.3. And so your monthly income would be $3,667. And then let's say you want the one bedroom, 1,650. To be 33% of the monthly pay. Take that, divide it by 0.333. So that'd be $4,955 for a monthly, for your monthly income to be that percentage. I agree with the comments that you have a plan for affordability, and I think you have to be pressing the developers and find a way to for them to take affordability seriously. I know one time, as a means to satisfy the community, you said no to a TIF project. That's a tool that you have in your toolbox by saying no. And then also the CRA map. This area is not blighted in appearance. We might as well just blight the whole city if you think this area is blighted. I think another thing that you can do is look at the CRA map and start removing areas that aren't supporting the idea that investment should be coming in an area to improve the quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you. Other opponents?
Hi, I'm Roz Rao, 517 South 86th Street. This is my second city council meeting ever, but reading through the agenda, I had some opinions on this, so thought I'd just give it a shot. And I agree with most of the things that the people before me have said, especially Miss Cheryl, I forgot your last name, Weston, fantastic. But it seems to me that we have more than enough market rate units in the city of Omaha at the current time. I don't even know how many of those are empty, but what we really need in this city, what people in my age range and economic range need in the city is affordable to low income housing. So I don't disagree with putting up a apartment unit in this specific place. I just disagree that market rate units are what we need. And if, I don't know, I haven't done enough research. This is my second week, but I don't know where the money to fund this has been coming from in the budget. But if we have this money to spend, I feel like it could be better used in maybe acquiring less expensive land and then using that money we've saved to, I don't know, make the housing more affordable, maybe supplement rent for some families. I just think it's more important that we have homes for people who can't afford them right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today on number 16? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Weston raises a very important question or concern today, and that is, what are we doing regarding those individuals who have an average income of $20,000 a year? In some of our communities, we have individuals, their income is $20,000 a year. And then yet, in December, I remember attending a ceremony provided by the Sienna Francis house, whereby over 100 individuals died last year due to homeless. So I guess my question would be to Director Fanslow, and that would be what efforts are being made to address this concern with the utilization of TIF?
Dave Fanslow, City Planning. Can you be more specific in your question about the concern?
The
Use of TIF?
Two concerns. One, individuals in the city of Omaha having a income of $20,000. What efforts are being made to address the accommodation, the cost of rent for those individuals utilizing the tool TIF?
Well, I'll take a stab at that one. So I can't speak to the income levels of what some TIF projects have produced, but there have been a number of projects that the city council has approved that use TIF financing as part of their capital stack. That would include light tech and other means that would provide housing for lower income people.
More specifically, when we're looking at individuals with an income of less than $20,000 or $20,000, what efforts are we as a city, what are we doing to address that concern as it relates to rental costs in the city of Omaha? Also, utilizing the tool TIF to accommodate that need.
I think I addressed how we use TIF for lower income housing units.
Right.
If you're asking what are the programs the city has that help with people of lower incomes in housing, we have a number of programs in my department that we use a lot of federal funds for to help people stay in their houses and purchase and be able to move into new houses.
Okay, so let me drill down a little bit. What efforts are being made to address individuals whose income is $20,000 a year to ensure that they have a house or a roof over their heads?
I guess I don't know if that's drilling down. I think I've already answered your question. I don't have specific, I guess I would add, I don't have specific information for the population that you're trying to address, which would be the $20,000 or less.
So would it be safe to say if you don't have that information available that perhaps we're not addressing that concern?
I would not say that is accurate, no. But you're asking me a question right now that I don't have the information for. So if you would like me to provide you information, if we have that based on that population group, I'm happy to do that, but I don't have that information now.
Yes, I would like for you to do that.
Okay, I'll look into it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm having trouble with the light system here. Is Mr. Harding, is your light on? Yes. Okay.
Thank you. I will say I know that just for review, the city gave $20 million in ARPA funds, which was matched by the private sector with another $20 million, and then HUD came in with another $20 million to address some of our affordable housing issues. And these are all very important issues and a conversation to have, but again, not relevant to the project that we're talking about today. So, Mr. Seaton, if you would. If you could address some of the issues, maybe as a counter, maybe Brad
Well,
would
I
want
tell
to
you,
come up as well too.
affordable housing is really a serious issue in Omaha. It's a serious issue in most all of our larger cities. It's across the nation. It's a serious issue. I'm not sure that TIF is the best tool for promoting affordable housing, because it's usually new construction or a rehab that is so incredibly thorough that it's like new construction. I went to a national conference of planners a couple years ago, and I went to every affordable housing session I could get into. Many of them were presenters from California, and one of the takeaways I took from that is, of course those units aren't affordable, they're brand new. It's incredibly difficult to build brand new housing and have it be affordable unless it's deeply, steeply subsidized, and TIF alone can't do that. I would note that in terms of supply and demand, which ultimately drives our market, this is a good project. Without TIF, it might be half that size. I'd also like to note that Brett West, a representative of the developer, arrived after the proponents. So you may wish to call Brett up to the microphone
plan
as
on
well.
doing that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else,
No,
Counselor?
that's good. But Brett, if you wouldn't mind coming up, and then just while you're coming up, I know I said this a couple of weeks ago, and it's not to diminish anyone's testimony here before, that's been said here before today. But remember too, when you're building projects like that, and there are people moving from one place to another, it opens other housing opportunities for those who are moving into your units or leaving other units, and therefore adding to the overall housing stock. So,
correct.
I'll just ask if you wanted to make a couple comments, Brett.
Sure, I'll keep it brief, and then sorry I was late. I had another meeting run long, but happy to answer any questions about the specifics. But yes, any project that a developer brings forward, this one in particular, is a vacant lot. There were buildings there that were beyond their useful life. This needed to be redeveloped. I was attracted to the site working with Chip James and his partners because of the investment the city's made with the library. I feel like the residents that live here, that's going to connect that in a very tangible way. As part of the Swivel project as well, partnered on that. And I think it's really enlivened 72nd Street to add housing there rather than just commercial on top of commercial. You're getting people to move, those businesses that we're concerned about. You're getting people to walk there, to go there. We're actually, Jimmy John's, for those who are worried, is coming back. They will be in this building. And we're adding a pizza component to it. And so we are building a businesses as well as adding residents. And I think it's going to, we're going to try to link to the library because that's a great investment by the community. And people are going to want to live down in this area. And if you don't create that density, you're just going to have more traffic and less people enjoying the amenities that the city's worked hard to invest in. As a side note on affordability, it's absolutely the more housing that the market needs, and this market needs housing. That is from top to bottom, and I agree with what the opponents were saying, and we could talk about that. I have over 350 Class B and C apartments that I've invested my own personal time, treasure, money. I'm on the phone every day trying to continue to keep those affordable, and that's what you can do with keeping things affordable. I'm a big proponent of figuring out ways to help existing stock continue to improve, existing housing improve, to serve those, and our job is to keep, as on this project, is to keep people housed, keep jobs here, and have a great place for them to live so everybody has a place to go, and it opens up affordable housing for those that need that. So on this particular project, sorry, I'd happy to answer any questions if you'd like.
All right, thanks.
Just your address too for the record. I don't think we got it.
Oh, 5505 North 290th Circle and Valley.
Thanks.
All right, I'll move for approval too.
There's a motion and a second. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Oh, thank you. And I just wanted to, thank Ms. Rout. I think she said this is the second meeting she's been to. And she had a couple questions that we didn't actually answer, and so I just wanted to make sure I provided that answer. I know that you don't have to come up. I just wanted to make sure we answered, because it was a very important question. You said, where in the budget is this coming from? Which I think is an excellent question to ask, and it probably deserves an answer. None of these fundings, it is all being completely funded by the developer. So the city isn't using any of the city funds for this. How the tax increment financing works is that actually the developer will still continue to pay the same amount of taxes on the property that they're paying now. So there's no reduction in the amount of property taxes that any of the taxing levies receive, including the school districts. They're going to receive the same amount. Once the loan that the developer has taken out with a private bank, so it's, by the way, it's a loan that the developer takes out from a bank, not the city, they pay that back through paying the increase in property taxes that pays the loan off. They're to pay it off in 15 years. However, we've been finding with the increase in the value of properties, the higher that value of the property goes up, a lot of times those TIF loans are being paid off much earlier because the higher the value, the quicker that loan pays off. And once the loan is paid off, all that additional property tax goes to the taxing entities. And that's how we benefit basically our city, the schools, and everybody else that uses the tax levy. And so it's kind of forward thinking, but at this point in time as well, the amount of TIF projects that we approved 15 years ago are all being paid off now. So we're actually not sacrificing anything. The development that we approved 15 years ago is now being paid off, and we're seeing all that increase in the property tax. So now if we keep on going, we're going to keep on increasing that, and we're not letting properties just sit as empty lots. And I mean, this has just kind of sat empty for as long as I can remember. And so that's what we want to do. Otherwise, those lots are just going to sit, no one's building on them, and we'll never see an increase in the value of the property. Therefore, we'll never see an increase in the tax revenues. So it's kind of complicated. And by the way, there's Bridget Hadley in our planning department, would always be willing to sit down and explain this to you. It probably took me 3 hours to figure this out or more with Bridget. And so I would encourage you to contact her because she's very, very helpful and super nice. But I did want to make sure that question was answered for you. And if you have any others, feel free to contact me, Amy Melton, in my office, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And thank you for starting to come down to our council meetings and get involved.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you. Ms. Milton did a wonderful job of explaining TIF and what that program does. And I have no doubt that this development is going to be very good investment. However, the concern, while we don't want to address it at this time, is that we do have a concern in the Omaha area as it relates to individuals making less than $20,000 a year. And just like we are making a concerted effort to address affordable housing such as this, now I would like to see that same concerted effort being addressed to those individuals making $20,000 or a year or less. I believe that the city of Omaha has the means, the tools to address both concerns. That's no reflection, sir, of your project. I'm just stating the facts. There are communities where that income level is an issue and they're having a hard time addressing or getting housing. And if we don't address this issue at some point, if not now, then when do we address it? So unfortunately, because I can't see anyone first acknowledging, because if we're an alcoholic, we first have to acknowledge that we have a problem. If we can't acknowledge that there is a problem regarding those individuals who make $20,000, then we'll never address that issue as well. Again, no reflection on the project. I believe in the project, but we must do something to address the other component of individuals within our city. And for that reason alone, I won't be able to support that or support this initiative today.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to go through some of the numbers as well. I kind of like digging into these applications and understanding how the economics work. So I looked up the property values of the five, I think there's 5 lots that you accumulated to put this project on, and the valuation of those 5 lots is a little over $1.5 million today. And that's generating property tax of right about $26,000. Okay, that's what we're collecting today as it sits. The beauty of TIF is it allows us to take property that's underperforming, and I would call this underperforming property, and turn it into something that becomes valuable. So the property that you're going to build, just help me if I'm making a mistake, get up and say, Don, your numbers are wrong, but the cost of the project is around $43.5 million. Now, we know we're not going to get a full assessment of that. We're going to get assessment for from the county. It's going to be something less than that, and I think that was around $35 million. If you do the math on $35 million, the property tax generated by that will be around $740,000. So you're comparing $740,000 of property tax to $26,000. I think that's the kind of project that TIF is meant to help the city. And sure, I agree with Amy, Councilmember Melton. It's a long play. It's a 15-year period to make that happen. And I agree, that's a long play. But it is a play that does, I mean, 15 years is going to go flying by. As Ms. Melton said, there are projects that are coming off of TIF today that are generating the full amount of that increased property tax. And I think that's the picture that I want to look at and that I want to see that we can take advantage of. And it's a private investment by a private developer to put these packages together. It's not a public, it's not public money. It's they're the ones that are on the hook for not only their initial investment in the project, but also the TIF dollars that are used to improve, the property around the project. And so I'm in full support of it. And I think, when you look at market rate, the minimum wage, I think, is around $13.50 an hour. And if you did, just without overtime, if you just did a single person, that's about $28,000 a year. And that's not counting any overtime or anything like that. I would say $13.50 is way under what the market rate is. I mean, $21 is probably closer to what the market rate is, and that's going to generate something over $40,000 in income for a single person. And if you use Mr. Jimenez's numbers, and 30% of that's going to be just under $1,100. So you're going to be right. I'm assuming that the developers are looking at market and looking at the numbers in that light. So you're at a 30%. You're going to be, if you're making $21 an hour, you're going to be pretty close to being able to afford that apartment. And that's in a studio, which would be one person. If you had a one bedroom, maybe you're talking about 2 incomes, and the numbers work for that as well. I haven't done the math. But I think it's important that we look at those numbers and understand it's private development, it's not public, and they're the ones that are on the that are taking the risk on these projects. And I appreciate, Brett, your explanation and your willingness to take that risk and to jump in on this project. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Begley.
Thanks, Mr. President. Brett, a couple quick questions for you, please.
You bet.
Good afternoon, Brett. So this is a project for 176 market rate units, correct?
Yes.
So you're familiar with the apartments in and around that area?
Yep.
What is the occupancy rate of the apartments, if you know, in that area, just, center line to the south and to the north and to the west?
You could ask. Mr. Spellman's right over there is my partner in both of those, but I'd say we're at 93 to 95%. It's a little lower in the winter and then bounces way up in the spring. Where all those people come from, who knows? But we're right now right around 95%.
Okay.
And yes, to answer, I want to follow up with what
Please.
he said. The developer is taking all the risk. Like, the city has no risk. When we take out the main loan, when we take out the TIF loan, that's 100% guaranteed by me and the equity that's guaranteeing. The city is going to get paid its taxes. That project's got to happen. Do you think we would bet on a project if we didn't think it was going to be 95% full? No, we would not. We would not put $43 million at risk to do that. And TIF is absolutely necessary to make projects like this happen. And thank you to the city for supporting those. And it's the only way things are getting done right now.
Thanks. And I did the Elmwood Neighborhood Association just to the east, and then Loveland is kind of on the
Yep.
other side of the industrial park
Yep.
to the west. I heard early on from Elmwood. Did you talk to the neighborhood associations at all?
We reached out to them. There was one person who lives down the street that reached out and said they were in support. They had some questions about how we're going to do landscaping, and we intend to do nice landscaping. And I think we've listened to her, and we've connected. She was really concerned about sidewalks for the most part and just a pedestrian connection, which
And
will
that-
all be redone way better than it is now.
Yeah, and that, I know you and I met a few months ago, I guess,
Yeah.
when you kind of were coming forward on this, and that's one of the things that I asked you to do, and I know I communicate with some people in Elmwood, and for the most part, all their questions were answered. I know
Yep.
this is on the west side of 72nd, but they also have concerns about when the library that is gone up quickly, it's amazing to drive by there to see the progress of it, and you're going to be right on the back end of this, so all the development that's going on that has continued to go on before I was on the council on the apartments on the northeast side of Dodge, and here, and down on Center and everywhere in between. So again, I appreciate the communication you and I had early on this.
Yep.
And I'll be supporting this today. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you. There are no further lights. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 16 is approved, 6-1.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
Item 17, a resolution to approve the Rose at Barcalo's Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 4209 and 4215 Ellison Avenue in an amount up to $859,437.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department. This is a residential infill redevelopment project located in North Omaha near 42nd Street and Ellison Avenue. We are looking at a project that will have 14 newly constructed row home units built on 2 vacant parcels. This can be considered along the lines of an affordable housing project. The homes will be for sale units sold to income qualified households earning between 60 and 120% of the area median income. And the sales price of these homes will be subsidized by the SPARK program, SPARK funds. The developer is the Mensch Group, LLC, managed by Philip McLean. This is about a $5.1 million investment in North Omaha. In this neighborhood, the TIF support for the project is $859,437. This project meets the required criteria of the TIF program. It's an appropriate land use for the area, provides infill in some underused lots in North Omaha. It's consistent with the city's master plan, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Good afternoon, Mr. President, council members. Bob Griffith, 11440 West Center Road here on behalf of the applicant, Mensch Group LLC. Mr. McLean, the developer, is with me as well, and Melvin Sedbeck with Sedbeck Homes. They are the builder for the project. Here to answer any questions, just want to touch briefly. Don did a great job, as always, overviewing the project. As he stated, this is a true low-income affordable housing project, 14 units. We are expecting to anticipate the final sale price to be about $265,000. Keep in mind that Phil's costs at the end of the day to build these, we expect to be about $368,000. So to bridge that gap, we're also utilizing SPARK funding. in the amount of about 1.6 million along with TIF. So our full capital stack is kind of reaching in all those buckets to make this problem feasible. Beyond that, 1-car garages for each, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and then about 282,000 in public improvements. So unless anyone has any other questions, everyone's here for your support and for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any other proponents that want to speak?
Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, 68108. I'm stand here today as a proponent for this project, of course, because it's affordable housing, but also because I feel like it does fit what the TIF program was set up for, to address those areas that are in a blighted area. I feel like, and then providing affordable homes and also providing a way to build wealth legacy. They're able to, that's the number one thing, is to be able to own a home to provide. So I do feel that it is. And I also want to make a disclaimer to make sure so somebody doesn't come out later. I am on the board of directors for the Spark Capital Funding. And this is, I believe, Mr. McLean, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it is our second project with Mr. McLean. And I voted for it then, and I'll vote for this one as well. I feel that he has shown that he is a young developer, emerging developer. He's trying to do the right things. And this project I feel like will bring housing. As I said, it will be housing that is going to bring wealth legacy to families. It's making it affordable, and it fits all the TIF program that I think should be. So with that, I truly support this project, and speaking for myself, not for the Board of Sparks. Thank you.
Thank you. Other proponents?
Hello again, Roz Rao, 517 South 86th Street. I am all for this, as I am, again, supporting of affordable housing. I just wanted to make note that on the agenda today, there is 261 market rate apartment units being proposed and only 14 affordable single-family homes. We have way more than 14 homeless people, way more than 14 families in need, and there needs to be more of a focus on the affordable housing, as I've stated before. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Needs to be specific to this project, right, Donnie?
Yes, sir. Mr. Frederickson, I'm glad you finished college not too long ago, right? But I understand, sir. So in the meantime, Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. I have nothing against money in any of these projects, but realistically, this is not making sense, right? On 114 and Drive, when they built that interstate, or to get over there, they didn't know that all that other stuff was gonna go past 120th and Dodge. So there was an argument about that. So, and that 2-lane road is already obsolete, because you go by there now, it's already backed up to 90th Street. So that was obsolete. So we're trying to look at, when Marty Schubert said, let's find jobs, this is the place we need to be going after we lost the meatpacking plants. So the housing doesn't make any sense unless we can get some jobs. And if the guys want to follow me back to West Africa, we'll get a whole bunch of jobs.
Any other opponents to number 17? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would just like to say that this project is more in line with the community in which I described earlier, in the underserved community. This project meets that obligation or meet that requirement for those individuals that are less fortunate. Mr. McLean is he's a young person in the community. He's investing. He's doing good work. He's utilizing the construction workers there in the area. There were some concerns from the residents in the area that this project is being built. He met with them. He came and provided a resolution to work with that community so that everyone was happy. Again, I can't say nothing but beautiful things about this project. And so therefore, it's also in my district, so I will be supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe.
Thank you. Cheryl, could you come back up? I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for your service on the Spark board. Since you were speaking on your own,
Yes.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about the mission of Spark. Can you give us, I mean, I didn't give you a heads up on this, but can you give us like a 60-second elevator speech on what you do and how you contribute?
Well, what the Spark Board is doing is we're trying to help regenerate the area of North Omaha particularly. We have some projects that's a little working in the south, but it's to help developers to become self-sufficient, learn how to take a project from the concept of the ideal, moving it on, helping them to provide the necessary funding. Sometimes we found we have like called the gap in between to help one from another, just as Mr. McLean is using the funds of 1 point something million along with the TIF. That's helping him to be able to make this goal. It's also helping him to be able to realize to help develop wealth for a legacy to leave to his family. It's inspiring in meeting those goals of bringing more development, more jobs, more opportunities to an area that is blighted, has been kind of left alone, left just to, I'm trying to think of the word right now, but trying to help an area that really needs help in becoming a self-sufficient area. I don't know if that's pretty much, and we just received a new accreditation to be a CDI, I think it is.
Great, appreciate that. It's more than just providing funding, it's providing other resources as well, right?
It is providing,
training
and one of the things is providing the teaching of helping individuals to, it's kind of taking that old saying, if you give a fish to a gun, you feed him for that moment. But if you help them to learn to fish, then you feed them for life. So that's what we're trying to do in Sparks, is to encourage individuals, and we're really trying to work with those who are within the area community to provide housing for, because that's what we mainly do, is work with housing. So we're trying to help them to provide housing for people who are there, who want to stay, and who come into the community.
Perfect, I appreciate that explanation.
And thank you for that opportunity, appreciate it.
Thank you. There's no further lights. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 17 is approved, 7-0.
Good luck.
Item 18, a resolution to approve the 3552 Apartments Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan located at 3552 Leavenworth Street in an amount up to $2,900,541. A is Communications.
Public hearing and vote on number 18 is today. Proponents, please.
Oh, yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department. The 3552 Leavenworth Apartments project is another residential infill redevelopment in the core of our city. It's located on the north side of Leavenworth between 35th Avenue and 36th Street. The site presently contains 2 buildings, both empty. One's an old family dollar store. The other is a former restaurant known as the Taste of India. The project proposed is a new 5-story apartment building with 85 market rate apartment units. Now, earlier I said TIF is maybe not the best tool for affordable housing. I would like to say that the city and the planning department are not without tools for affordable housing. We have affordable housing planners in a division that works on this. And some of the resources include CDBG, HUD funds, and state funds. And we had over 3,000 affordable housing units developed in 2024. So we do have tools. It's just, TIF has helped with affordable housing in many instances, but we need to look beyond TIF, I think, as well for maximum impact. Anyway, with this project, 5 stories, 85 market rate apartment units, increasing our housing supply. The developer is Ryan Spellman, 3552 owner LLC. The total investment in this portion of the city is $25 million for this project. The TIF support is $2,900,541. I would note that this project is located within the urban core, the housing and mobility plan area. It will be making a contribution of TIF revenues towards streetcar construction. This project also meets all the criteria of the TIF program. It's been approved by the TIF committee and the planning board. It's an appropriate use for the area, and it complies with the city's master plan goals. We did have some concerns voiced on traffic and parking from the neighborhood association, but nonetheless, we see this as a valuable project for the neighborhood and for the city. We ask for your approval.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Good afternoon, Ryan Spellman, 9951 Harney Parkway North. I just want to point out real quick, Don, I think this is 27th and Leavenworth. Yes, I wanted to correct the record there. But if you'll recall, this project came before you for a rezoning just a few weeks ago and was approved. So I'm just here to thank you for your consideration and answer any questions that may arise.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, 68132. That word is where I want to go. Zoning changes. I've been following these things for quite a while, and I can see it's happening to my neighborhood now. Not very long ago, the zoning was changed to have more than single-family residences on Lafayette Street, Lafayette Avenue, just across 50th Street, just a share away from the blighted area that's east of there, between Cumming and Hamilton, which is next up on your list for major developers, I guess. Because this is the way you do it. Now, on my street, there's 2 corner houses that were rezoned for multiple families, one to an out-of-state realtor, another to Creighton University. You move 5 or 6 students in there, and there are 5 or 6 cars, and there's no parking left on either one of those corners. On 50th Street, you blocked a major artery with that one. So you begin driving people out that way, just giving up on their privacy of their neighborhood. As I follow some of the things that are current right now, I can see it's happening, getting closer to me. But this particular one, I drove around the area today, and guess what? It's connected to your overall master plan, which is the mobility thing, all the way from probably Elmwood Park, UNO, maybe clear out to Fremont, clear down to downtown Omaha for these major buses. Bicycles, so you can sell bicycles, and build parking garages. These 2 buildings, yes, maybe they're vacant. How did they get to be vacant? They used to be businesses. Did the planning department, permits department force them out of business? Oh, you got to do this to upgrade your building or you're out of here. That looks to be the way it's happening. And I see that happening majorly now along Northwest Radio and up the hill east between Cumming and Hamilton. And you're very close to me, almost to 50th Street. It's a vendor's corner right in there now. As I drove yesterday across Leavenworth, there's a couple of other items on your agenda today that are connected. Because not very far across Leavenworth is the Marcy area, where you have that on the agenda later. And I guess you're planning on taking the park that's just south of Leavenworth Street. A couple blocks south of there is Marcy. The Leavenworth Neighborhood Association is not here today. I thought they might be. Oh, not very far from there, you go down the hill there to Turner Boulevard. Maybe you're gonna take Dewey Park also? If so, why don't you tell us that stuff? The people in the Leavenworth area neighborhood association right south of this building, do they know any of this? Have they been told any of this? Those houses are nice houses. You're either gonna tear down some nice houses or you're gonna take away their park. I think, you're kind of doing that with the people down on South 50th Street and Saddle Creek.
Larry, you have to keep your
That's
remarks
another
to
project
this
that
item.
is ground to a halt, ladies and gentlemen. Your projects are not all working for some reason. How many vacant projects are we going to have in Omaha? Do you not understand the cost of that goes up? Tell us the truth about the crossroads and how it's not going to happen again with this one.
Any other opponents on number 18? I would appreciate folks keeping their remarks to this item, which is 35th and Leavenworth Street.
Cheryl Weston, 1124 Pacific Street, 68108. I am here as an opponent on it for the same reasons that I was on for item 16. I do feel that these new projects, as it says, you're making more, are allowing more rent rising, and with housing development that is going more to put certain profits into the landlord's pocket to assume a massive amount of wealth. We keep being told that these projects would not happen. People, when we're not that dumb. If somebody's going to invest something like $35 million into it, it's all been looked upon, and they do know that what it's going to cost. And they have decided that that project will be completed. It's just that TIF helps to make it more. I could appreciate more if it was just said that way, instead of trying to say, no, this project would not. Nobody's going to invest $30 million into something and just say this $6 million, or I'm sorry, I got the wrong numbers there, 2 million, 0.9. They're not going to have 2 million, 0.9 be the deterring factor to keep them from making something that is going to be 30 plus million or whatever. But because this is going to be able to fit into what you have decided is the plan to develop that area. There was that restaurant there, the Family Dollar. It was not a blighted area. It was not torn. There were businesses that were taking. This will be helpful to the Med Center and all of the development that's going on there. That's just the truth of it. But as long as TIF is not being used for the blighted areas for the purpose that it was, I feel that I'll probably always be that opponent. Things change. We need to address the affordable housing. And I'm not saying that we're asking for all of the apartments to be market rate. Sure, anybody goes into a business, you want to make money, you want to be involved in something like that. But can't they find a way to put in a percentage of affordable housing? And the ideal that, oh, those people move out and people move, no. If you could not afford it before, you're certainly not going to be able to afford it when those people move out of this one to move farther out west or whichever direction. Just be more honest with us as citizens of Omaha and explain some of these things, but we also need to be having you look at affordable housing. There's no way to get around it. And with all the plans, maybe the city says they have plans to help the affordable housing. Maybe those need to be explained to us as citizens of Omaha a little bit better, maybe we wouldn't. But there's something wrong when we have people who are becoming homeless. And the homeless is rising in Omaha, Nebraska. Just an article that was put in the paper just 2 weeks ago, how it is increased. Something has to be done to help affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents on 18? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Begley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Spellman, a couple questions, please. Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon, Ryan.
Good afternoon.
I had a good conversation with a lifelong 40-plus year member of the Leavenworth Neighborhood Association. And I know you had some communication back and forth, and there was some disagreement, which I got great respect for the neighborhood associations when they get involved, and I know you had communication with them that's documented in the opposition today. The neighbor, though, that I talked to was a former neighborhood leader down there that's a good, trusted friend that I've known for a while. And I just wanted to make this comment. When we had talked when we were here earlier about the parking issue, that maybe there's some availability in Blackstone.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a good observation that if people are going to park in Blackstone, they got a long hill to go up to 35th Ave or 36th Street to get up to Blackstone. So I just wanted to make that comment for the record that he had stated. Now, in respect to your project, it's in the packet here. Is the timeline as I drive by there, it looks like you're ready to get rolling on construction with all your equipment's there now.
No, so I'm sorry. I do not yet own the land. I have it under contract. The current owner is leasing some space to the apartment project that's currently under construction by Sullivan Group, just
To the west?
a couple blocks
Like
to the
Quick
west.
Shop?
So that's just lay down space for their construction
Okay.
equipment and what have you. So our timeline is still consistent with what was laid out in the TIF application. I'm still thinking we're starting demolition and construction this spring yet. Just a couple small pieces we have to put into place. We do have construction costs. The plans are done. We've bid it out. We're in for a permit. Construction costs have come back and are generally within the budget that I was anticipating. There's always a little work you have to do, but this one's ready to get off the ground.
Okay, and that's, if it's correct, and you're talking about demo to start maybe around April of this year?
Exactly, yep.
Okay, and then maybe, not quite, maybe 2 years to get it done, March of '27?
That's correct.
Okay, and I know Mr. Sullivan's project that you're talking about,
Yes.
you're allowing him to just have his equipment there as he's finishing up his project?
The current owner of the land is allowing him to do that, and I believe that it's like a 30-day notice situation, so they can tell Mr. Sullivan and I believe it's Ronco Construction, hey, look, it's time to rock and roll, and
Okay.
You guys have to clear it off.
No, those are the little tricks of the trade that I know it helps congestion and the things that the neighbors deal with, so.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the owners of the property allowing that.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion to support this today, Mr. President. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve. Mr. Harding.
Thanks, Mr. President. Ryan, really nothing for you. Normally, I don't like to call out speakers for the misinformation that is given with the goal of trying to get people to be against a project like this. And specifically, I'm talking about the person that laid out the idea that the city would be taking over Leavenworth Park or Dewey Park and hand over to the private sector for development, for profit. City parks, a designated city park is sacrosanct. It can never be anything but a park. So I think it's unfortunate that people get up here and try to use those tactics to get people to be against a project like yours. This is a great project for the area, and I'm fully supportive of it. I don't know did you make a motion, Danny, or you did? Okay.
And I'll just say, as a father of 4, I love parks, so I'm very pro-park.
Well, if you ask Matt Kalsovich, I always get the number wrong, but it's 234. I know I'd get it wrong. See? Anyway, if people are going to come up, and please come up with the facts and not information that's the only intention is to take away from good projects like yours. But I'll be fully supportive of this. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further lights. There was a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Begley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 18 is approved, 6-1.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items 19 through 28 were held on January 28th. I don't see any further lights. Is there a motion?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Begley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 19 through 28 are approved, 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 29 through 44 are today. If you wish to address the city council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent. And if you are a proponent or an opponent, these are items 29 through 44. Through 44. All right, public hearing's closed. Ms. Melton, you're recognized.
Thank you. Melody, I know you're on here. I'm here to address 31 and 32. It's Ramona's Mexican Restaurant in 31, and in 32, it's Trips Bar and Grill. They are both asking for a lottery operator's agreement with the city of Omaha and Big Red Keno. And we can't base our votes on whether or not the restaurants or bars pay their sales taxes to the city. We've been told that we are not allowed to do that. However, I find it somewhat problematic when we have two places that are asking to have a satellite Keno location and they're not currently paying their sales taxes to the city. And the reason I have a problem with that is there's other small business owners, restaurants, families that own other restaurants, and they're paying the sales tax, by the way, that they've already collected from their customers. So they're literally keeping the money that their customers are paying in city sales tax and keeping it for themselves. And so I guess what I would ask is that when you are looking to approve somebody for a Keno location, that maybe you inquire, potentially Big Red could inquire about whether they're up to date on their city sales tax. And again, I know that's not necessarily your role or responsibility, but I do think it's a responsibility of all of us when we work together, City of Omaha and Big Red Keno, and we're working together for the benefit of the taxpayers of Omaha. And these good taxpayers have paid their sales tax, and these two locations are not reimbursing the city for the sales taxes that their customers have paid. Do you ever inquire about that, Melody?
I have not inquired about that, but I can certainly do that moving forward. I do know that the charitable gaming division of the Nebraska Department of Revenue will not issue a Keno license if there are outstanding taxes.
Oh, okay. Well, and I guess you just answered a question that I didn't ask, and that's actually what I wanted to know. So I appreciate that information. Thank you very much. Then I guess if that's the case, I'm not asking you to do anything in addition, because I think that might kind of solve the issue that we have.
Yes, and I will work with charitable gaming to make sure that the owners are notified of such items.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Item number 31 is in my district, and I think this is a worthy adventure, and as well as it will generate revenue for this area. So I'm in very much support of this. And I would like to congratulate Ramona's Mexican Restaurant for thinking outside the box and offering this service available for the community.
Thank you. I don't see any further lights on these items. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Begley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton. Rowe. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 29 through 44 are approved, 7-0. Item 45, an ordinance to amend Section 22-77 of the Omaha Municipal Code to amend the Deferred Retirement Option Program.
The vote on number 45 is today. Are there any lights or a motion? Mr. Bagley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Question for Mr. Endenbosch.
Bernard Endenbosch, Deputy City Attorney.
Bernard, good afternoon. We had some discussion on this last week. I was curious in respect, so I know we did the actuarial analysis for the fire and the police chiefs and the deputies, consistent with the Police Managers Association and Fire Managers Association. Was there an actuarial done on the rank and file of OPOA and 385?
There was not.
Okay. If there was one done, what's a time frame? What would that look like in respect to a time frame to do that?
A little bit hard for me to say because obviously I make the request. The actuary is the one who performs the services. It took approximately 2 weeks to do the one for police and fire management, keeping in mind that we're only dealing with 2 individual people. If we were to request them to do an actuarial analysis on this, I expect it would take more time because you're going to have to take into account some different contingencies because whether a quarter, a half, 3/4 go into the drop, those might have a difference if the participation is different in police versus fire, if it's only available to one versus the other. I would anticipate it would probably take 3 to 4 months. We already have the actuary doing some work for us in regards to some potential things that the police union was interested in. So those negotiations are going to come up later this year, and we've already sent those questions to have that work done. So, I can obviously ask them to reprioritize, but my preference probably would be to say, they're finishing up an experience study for us right now. They got the police questions, and we could certainly have them do this. I would expect 3 or 4 months.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thanks, Bernard.
I want to be realistic.
Okay, no, that's fair. Trevor, a couple questions for you, please.
Trevor Towie, President, Omaha Professional Firefighter, 6005 Grover.
Mr. Talley, good afternoon. You were here last week, and I don't want to restate your position, but my recollection of it was that you weren't against the proposal that we have here today for the police and fire chiefs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's an accurate statement.
Okay. And you had said in that meeting that it was an issue of simple fairness for your rank and file members.
Absolutely. It was a lot of questions that my membership brought to me is if we're all in the same system, chiefs, firefighters, paramedics, and police, why would it be fair for just a certain few to get benefits that others haven't been offered or don't have the opportunity to participate in?
And I can appreciate this as a longtime vice president of my union, IBW 1483. I appreciate the uniqueness that you have as a IAFF 385 president, that in order to if this was something that you were going to discuss with your members, how often do you have general membership meetings with 385 members?
We have monthly meetings, and we have specific meetings at any time to discuss negotiations, and that's something that we haven't even contemplated. My positions here were simply, if it's a benefit that benefits the city and employees, I think that should be explored. I absolutely appreciate the fact to be able to keep valuable employees. I think we should be doing more to keep valuable employees. And I'm certain, and I think others in this room would agree with me, there's 700 valuable employees that I represent on the fire department that haven't had the opportunity to experience this benefit, but we may want to. And so it's simply a matter of fairness to me That's why I'm not opposed to it, but it should be an opportunity for everybody. And that's why I brought my concerns to you, just to put it in a public forum.
And to make a finer point on it, in respect to speaking to your members, you have monthly membership meetings, but you could call a special meeting. In order to talk to 700 of your members to weigh in, I'm certainly not going to speak for 385, but I can imagine putting my hat on it as a vice president of a union. Democracy takes place, and it's a tough thing because you got different seniority levels, different ranks of your membership, and it's not a slam dunk that 100% would be in favor of this for your members, that 100% would be against it. You're going to have, I'm assuming democracy is going to hit you, and you're going to hear all the different angles from your members. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair, and I want to be very clear here. If this benefit was offered to the members of Local 385, it would be an all or none, which means we can all take advantage of it or none of us can take advantage of it. It's not just, Trevor, you get a benefit, but everybody else don't, or this person does. It would have to be a benefit that would be included into our contract, and if 51% of our members said they like it, they like that idea, then we would go for it. But what another part of my opposition is, all those benefits are negotiated. To the best of my knowledge, because this is a city ordinance, there wasn't a negotiation that took place. It's just picking a benefit for employees. And I would want that same position offered to my members if they so chose to participate.
And that couldn't happen today with your members. I'm assuming you would like to have time, at least to have that conversation with your members to even explore that?
Yeah, it would take a significant amount of time and discussion and education and explore all of the pros and the cons of every proposal. And when we negotiate a contract, obviously it's much more than one issue. It takes a lot longer, but we also have to be aware of what the trickle-down effect would be of implementing such a program.
And certainly that would be between you and the city in respect to your bargaining unit that's represented. The last question, so Mr. Endenbosch, I think he mentioned that if the city were to do an actuarial study, it would take roughly 3 to 4 months. Is that kind of if you were to speak to your experts in 385, is that a kind of a fair time frame in respect to an actuarial? You have a good relationship with the city, I know.
Yeah.
Does that seem like a fair time frame, 3 to 4 months?
The last time we asked questions of the actuaries in regards to our negotiations, that's how long it took.
Okay. And again, I wasn't questioning Bernard. The relationship I know you have it's a good relationship with the city, and that makes things a lot better. As I said last week, thanks, Trevor. I didn't have any more questions for you. In my comments, I'm not against the chiefs getting this benefit. It is an issue of the process and the fairness of it. In respect to the time frame of if we did an actuarial analysis for 385 and OPOA, it would take 3 to 4 months. I wanted to be respectful of the members of not only OPOA that they aren't here today, and 385, that I would make a motion to lay this over for 60 days, at least to give, maybe the actuary study won't be done by then, but I think would give ample time for Mr. Towie and Mr. Dempsey of OPOA to at least have discussions with their members to see if they would even want to go down the road with the city to have the discussions on this. Because if it's given to the Police Managers Association, the Fire Managers Association, I think that it is an issue of fairness that everybody should be encompassed in that. And that's why I would make a motion to lay this over for 60 days so the members of the locals, rank and file, who, by the way, there was a terrible fire on 25th and Farnham Street that the fire department responded to in cold conditions. There was a terrible fire last night at Legacy. I don't think that anybody was injured in that one, but there was a fatality on 25th and Farnham. And I think of, as I know Chief Bossman, who's sitting here today, you think of your firefighters, and they answer the bell to every call, if it's cold out, if it's hot, if it's perfect out. I drove by that fire on Saturday morning and saw it was ribboned off, and there were still fire trucks there and personnel, and dealing with that. That's why it's no disrespect to the chiefs where I make that motion to lay this over, but it is to the rank and file where Trevor's firefighters and Chief Bossman's, and also great respect for Chief Schmatter, who's at a funeral today, or he certainly would have been here, on the great work he does as police chief, but also the rank and file police officers that make the arrests, that are out there. I've been watching for some other issues we have with the city, but I'm see body cams of the police officers and have great respect for the frontline work that they do every day protecting and serving us. So that's why in my motion to lay this over, it's just to give a little time for the bargaining units to talk to their members and to see if that actuary study, if it maybe gets done before 3 or 4 months. If it doesn't, at least we got 60 days to afford the rank and file members to have the discussions from the top down.
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Mr. Hug, is your light on?
Yep, my light's on.
Yep, go ahead.
Are you done, Councilman?
Yes.
All right, thank you. One of the first questions I asked when I got on the city council was, what can we do to keep Chief Schmatter? That hasn't changed. I think that we ought to be doing everything and anything we can do to keep the leadership in place that we have that has elevated the Omaha Police Department to one of the most well-respected law enforcement agencies in the country. However, we're going to get one chance at doing this right. Like anything we do, we get one chance at doing it right. And I'd rather take the time, whether it's 60, 80, 90 days, whatever it is, I'd rather take that time to make sure that we've dotted the I's, crossed the T's, make sure we're giving the rank and file firefighters and law enforcement officers of OPD the opportunity to get their questions answered. So I support Councilman Bagley's proposal to lay it over.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Melton.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say I completely support doing this for the chiefs, and I absolutely agree with the fairness issue. And I guess my opinion would be if we do this for the chiefs and the actuarial study comes back that there is no material difference to the pension, negative pension, because that's part of our ordinance that we have to do, then we allow the bargaining units, we allow police and fire to determine whether they want it or not. If they want it, they should get it. And in fact, because it's a fairness issue, that shouldn't even be something that they have to bargain for. It's just the chiefs have it. If you want it, you guys vote yes or no, and the city should honor whatever that vote is. And I would just remind everyone that when we initially instituted DROP, it was not instituted for all bargaining units at the same time. It took a couple of years before we got everybody on the same page. Now I think it was bargained for. I'm not going to go back into all of that, but we didn't do it for everybody at once. When it came to healthcare, trying to get everyone on the same healthcare plan, I think the police got it first, and then maybe there was another civilian unit that bargained for it, and so there were people that were getting HSA contributions that were larger than other city employees because they were in a different unit. It took us a couple of years before everybody except fire got on the same kind of healthcare program. And fire could be on it, but they wanted to be on their own, and we agreed that they could choose their own healthcare. So we don't always do the same thing, but I think the important thing is that we let the bargaining units determine what they wanted. And so I agreed to do that here today too. So we could pass this today, and both police and fire, their union members, would be able to choose whether or not they also wanted this same benefit or option, I guess is what I would call it. So I got that's where I am. I completely agree with Trevor. on the fairness, which is why I wanted to make it clear. There are things when we're doing in contracts that we're bargaining. It's a give and take. This would be something that, based upon the fairness, we would allow in my opinion, you would allow the union members to pick. It's not something you'd have to give. What are you going to give up for it? That would be off the table. So that's my position on this. So I guess whether we pass it today or in 3 or 4 months, to me, it wouldn't matter if that's what we're going to agree to do for purposes of fairness. My fear is, as Chief Schmatter has said, other cities have gotten wind at what a great chief we have. Cities that are even bigger than us. And part of the reason is everything that Chief Schmatter has done with community policing. I mean, working with the communities in North Omaha and South Omaha, building those relationships. Other cities have taken note and, in fact, are even calling the Empowerment Network and asking, how can we replicate what Omaha has done? Chief Schmatter has traveled to other cities, along with Willie Barney, along with Ben Gray. And other cities are now saying, we want to do what you did. And with that, now other cities are looking at it and going, oh, Chief Schmatter's contract in Omaha is up in 26. Believe me, there are lots of mayors and city council members all over the nation that are hoping they can make an offer to our chief and take him from us. So I want to say that I think everyone here agrees that I really don't want to wait, because I also think it puts Chief Schmatter in a position where he doesn't know whether or not he'll be able to take advantage of this. So in my opinion, I think we can do what everybody wants in this case, even if it's, passing a resolution as such in a future meeting, but putting it out there, I completely agree, but I do think that we could pass this today without delay to give Chief Schmatter the security that the city of Omaha actually wants to keep him as our chief. And then still be able to provide this benefit to the union members of both fire and police if they want it. I don't want to force it on them either. I mean, it'll give both the unions time to discuss and time to have all those discussions, which they may need more. 3 or 4 months is when we get the actuarial report back. I don't know how many more months it would take them to be able to have those internal discussions that they would need to have. And I guess for me, I would rather not see that delay if this body is telling both of them that we agree with the fairness and allow them to get the same benefit in the future. If they want it, again, if they want it, and let it be their choice. So that's why I'm not supporting the layover, but I'm supporting both this ordinance and actually what Trevor, what at least fire is requesting, and I'm going to assume police would like the same thing. And I would offer that to both. So,
Thank you.
good compromise, a win-win.
Thank you, Mr. Harding.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, before I start, I do not have OCD, but Danny, your sign's about to fall down if you don't pull that back a little bit. Thank you. Now hopefully my thoughts are a little more clear now. I'm going to pick up a little bit on what Councilmember Melton was just saying, is that I completely agree. And let's all remember, too, that these are different bargaining units, and I think that history lesson was important, too, that we didn't, when the drop program initially came in, it was not accepted by all the bargaining units at the same time. And by taking this action today doesn't preclude others to come in. And I completely agree, again, with what Mr. Towie said, too, is that if it's a benefit to the city and the employees, and if we do pass this today, it's a matter of fairness, and we should make that available to them outside of the negotiating process. So I totally agree with that. And one of the things I think Councilmember Bagley and I talked a little bit about this today too, is, and I think I asked Trevor this when we were discussing it a couple weeks ago, is that I remember when the initial drop went in, it affected the ability for upward mobility within the departments, because people were then going into the program and at certain levels and therefore kind of capping, if you will, the ability to move up. And so I would be concerned about, and I think that that's in part what Mr. Towie, not to put words in his mouth, but in part what he was saying about, you know, he's going to have those internal discussions with his union, and I assume Mr. Dempsey would with his as well too. But we need to make sure that just because it might work for one unit doesn't necessarily it's going to work for another unit, and one unit may decide that they want to go forward with it while another doesn't. So again, what I think we're doing today, and again, I wanted to reemphasize too, we want to make sure that it does not have a negative impact upon the pension system for the city of Omaha. And that protects both the citizens of Omaha, but also protects those who are in the pension system, so that they'll be paid when time comes. So I don't think by taking this action today on the police and the fire chiefs precludes us from doing the same thing for rank and file, and knowing that it's a matter of fairness in the future. So and I don't want, so I'm not going to support the layover today for that reason, because by taking this action today, we can still do that for the other unions if it's of benefit to the city and it's accepted by those unions.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to call Bernard back up to the podium. One of the jobs that I've been able to do as a member of the City Council is serve on the Police and Fire Pension Board. And Mr. Bernard lends his expertise to us every month on that. And I guess my one question to you, Bernard,
Certainly.
is there anything that you've heard today in this discussion that would give you pause as a city attorney on this topic?
The only
on the spot, but I just want to get your professional opinion on, is there something that I'm missing here?
The only observation that I would make is, well, I'll make it two-part. First of all, every collective bargaining agreement, whether you have a separate collective bargaining agreement or it's codified in the city code, is adopted by an ordinance. That's how this body acts. So this is, in fact, an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement for police and fire management. And if we were going to extend the benefit to police sworn the OPOA and Local 385, it would in fact be an ordinance that amended their collective bargaining agreement. When people say you're not going to negotiate, that causes me some, because what I heard Mr. Towie say was he wanted a change to what's being proposed, that the version here that's before you, which means that people don't get to enter into the second drop program unless the mayor approves. I heard Mr. Towie say that it wouldn't be acceptable to their group unless it was all or nothing. In my mind, that's a change from the document that's before this particular council. And maybe that's okay, but that's going to require, at least in my view, some discussion. Again, after we have analysis done by the actuary as to the effect on the pension system. So I think to say the terminology is going to have to be a little bit different if we apply it to different groups, and that is going to require discussion with the bargaining groups, and that discussion in my mind is collective bargaining. That doesn't mean that you have to get something in return, which is what I really think the council is saying, is we don't necessarily think that the city should demand something in exchange for this, and I understand that concept, but I do think everybody has to understand that there will be discussion, and it is collective bargaining agreement, and I already heard one, and maybe I heard incorrectly, but that's what I thought I understood from Mr. Towie's testimony, and that's a change. I'm not saying that, but it is a change that's going to require some discussion.
So thank you, appreciate that.
Don't go far, Bernard.
Oh, okay. I appreciate Councilmember Melton and Harding's explanation, and I don't see how, doing a layover on this accomplishes much for the rank and file. I think that we can do this action today, and it doesn't preclude us from taking action in the future when we have all the facts for the rank and file. I think all of us up here, well, I can't speak for everybody, but I think I have a pretty good sense that we want what's fair for 385 and for OPOA. And, but I don't think that should stop us from taking action today on this item number 45.
Thank you. Mr. Indenbosch, if you would mind coming back up. That's why I gave you the heads up not to go too far.
Bernard Indenbosch, Deputy City Attorney.
Thank you. I appreciate this conversation and also last week's conversation on this item. And I was around in 2010, so I do recall very well the negotiations on this item and those entire labor contracts with all of our public safety bargaining units at the time that included DROP. And the purpose of DROP was to retain leadership and retain experience and continuity.
Certainly.
And I think it has done that. And I think that's the intention here with what we have before us today with the police and fire chiefs.
Correct.
And no doubt they do have that leadership and experience that we appreciate, and I think they've both done a good job. The fairness issue raised by Local 385 and also some council members does concern me. Councilmember Bagley and I come from a similar perspective on that and frequently come to the same conclusions on those things. But I wanted to engage you on a conversation we had today that I think can help with that issue, in my mind at least. And that is, we currently have 81 firefighters and 50 police in Local 385 and in the Omaha Police Officers Associations that are currently in DROP. And as has been noted here today, that this program or extension of this program may also be of interest to them. It could also be a strategy for us to help address our staffing shortages, I think. But there is this challenge, as has also been noted, that those memberships may have different opinions about these things, and it could impact promotional levels, and that'd be something they'd have to discuss amongst themselves and may or may not want to take advantage of this benefit.
Certainly.
But from a fairness perspective, I think it is important we offer it to them. And so important to my vote today was a conversation we had earlier in which we agreed to move that bar 1 or 2 steps further down the road than we've discussed so far, which is the city agreeing to conduct another actuarial study as it applies to Local 385 and Omaha Police Officers Association members, fund it ourselves, and complete that in the next 3 to 4 months as has been estimated. And that's something you're willing to commit to, right?
I had conversations, obviously, with the administration. They indicated if the item were approved today, they would agree to fund and request and fund an actuarial study to be done by the systems actuary for both the I always say police and fire sworn, but that includes management for the OPOA and Local 385.
Okay. And that was done for the items we're talking about today. And
Correct.
it concluded actually a positive impact to that pension system. I would anticipate that study being neutral or positive, but it's important to get those specific numbers to that many individuals.
I would have the same thing. Every time the DROP study's been looked at on its own, it's always been a benefit to the system.
And in fact, under current wording in the contract, it has to be, or else we're no longer going to do it, right?
Yeah, the reality is there was a 5-year review, and absent a positive result, you're right, it would have ended after 5 years. But the result was positive, which is why it remains.
Okay. And so thank you for that commitment. And then when completed, obviously, the administration is also committed to engaging them in those results and the possibility of that same benefit.
Yeah, I'll commit to sharing those results with the leadership of both bargaining groups.
Okay. Thank you. It's with those assurances that I'm okay moving forward with items we have before us today and would not support the labor. Mr. Hug.
Pete, you just shocked me. I didn't think I was going to hear those words come out of your mouth. I apologize. Bernard, you're getting your steps in today. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I understood you correctly. So it was implied that if the council approved this today, that the executive floor was willing to do the actuarial study.
Correct. That's what I was informed, yes.
Okay, and if we didn't pass it, that would be off the table?
There is no commitment to do the actuarial studies if they're not adopted today.
But the city council has the authority upon itself to initiate that policy if we were to so pass an ordinance or a resolution?
You certainly have the ability to fund it. Whether you would have the ability to, what the next steps would be, probably worthy of some more discussion. But
we have the ability on our own to get that study done if we so choose.
Probably. I mean, you can request it. The actuary is the actuary for the pension system and serves jointly the city and the pension. Doesn't serve the bargaining groups.
So we could do it if you wanted to.
I think there's a question as to whether that's within your authority as a legislative body. And I haven't looked at the extent of that authority as we sit here today. I think there could be some question because obviously, as we talked about last week, obviously, as the legislative function of the city, you're responsible for allocating money and funding, but when it comes to taking action.
So we could allocate money to an actuarial study.
But typically, the performance of the work is left to the executive things. There are times where you may allocate money that things are not done precisely as the allocation, and there is some flexibility for the executive branch as far as doing things within some parameters. But I don't want to, not worthy necessarily of a debate today, but.
So simplistically, if we wanted to fund the study on our own, we could do that. Regardless of who could influence it or direct it or whatever after we fund it, we could fund it.
You can fund it on your own, yes. Whether or not you can actually.
That's the point.
Whether you could communicate and request it is a whole nother issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any further lights. There was a motion and a second to lay over. Actually, we need on that motion, we need that date specific. Yeah.
It would be April 8th.
April 8th. Motion to lay over till April 8th. Thank you.
Okay. Lay over to April 8th with the same second. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug.
Yes.
Johnson. Melton.
No.
Rowe. Mr. President.
No.
Motion failed 3-4.
Second.
There's a motion to approve in a second. No further lights. Roll call.
Bagley.
No.
Harding.
Yes.
Hug.
No.
Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved 4-3. Item 46, an ordinance to approve a non-exclusive public right-of-way license agreement with Light Source Communications LLC for a period of 10 years.
The public hearing on item number 46 is today. Proponents, please. By Zoom, yes. Mr. Barton, we'll get you off mute here in a second. All right, try that.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Andrew Barton, and on behalf of Light Source and Excel Utility Contractors, I'm open for questions.
Thank you. And your address, too?
My address is 18549 US Highway 66, Pacific, Missouri, zip code 63069.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed. Next item, thank you.
Item 47, an ordinance to approve a jurisdictional drainage way maintenance agreement for the Grove Ridge site at 192nd and Leavenworth Streets.
Public hearing on number 47 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 48, an ordinance to acquire private property for the Q Street and 122nd Street retaining wall repair project.
Public hearing on number 48 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents?
Hello, Roz Rao, 517 South 86th Street again. I don't have any specific opposition to this. I was just looking for more specifics on what the street retaining wall repair is supposed to be. And if that is public information, where I can find that.
Okay, thank you. We'll get the answer for you here in a second. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Mr. Stubbe, do you want to answer that question, please? Or Mr. Rouser will, yes, thank you.
Austin Rouser, Public Works. So the repair is for a retaining wall that failed after a heavy rain in 2024. And we are currently under construction with the repair, so we're rebuilding a significant portion of that. Obviously involves a lot of street work because the wall was holding up a portion of Q Street. So that repair is underway, and we're looking for, again, the wall is going to go back in the same place where it was. So no additional land is necessary for the wall, but we will have need for construction easements when we start working on the private property side of Q Street, just to get that work completed.
Thank you. Mr. Rowe, you're recognized.
Austin, I guess that was going to be my question. So we're not needing more property from somebody's backyard to build the wall. It's just during construction that we may be utilizing their property.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the wall is going to go back the same location, the same place that it's been. So there's not necessarily a need for any additional encroachment permanently onto private property. It's the temporary encroachment that we'll need to be on private property to build the wall.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bagley.
Thank Austin, real quick question for you. That stretch in there, you said it was from the rain. Did the storm restoration, I know there was a lot of utility work. Did that have anything to do with the issues that we have to fix here today?
Did the utility work have cause? Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, because they had line crews in there. Maybe this is a different area I'm thinking about. Are you talking about the north and south sides of Q?
It's the south side of Q Street.
South side.
Right, 122nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just from weather, wear and tear, not to?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
One public hearing can be held for items 49 and 50. Item 49, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the Uptown District Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement. Item 50, an ordinance to approve the Mason Place Rose Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearings on items 49 and 50 are today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, Don Seaton, Omaha City Planning Department. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I made quick reference to this earlier in the day. I'm against a lot of TIF projects because when you look at it from a broad point of view, the overall view, the big picture, here we go flowing down Marcy Street, Leavenworth Street, Turner Boulevard, down to try and revitalize the area there around the Midtown Center. Must be some reason why that has fallen out of favor in recent years, and we have to revitalize it. Yeah, it's a good area for entertainment occasionally, but a lot of people stop going down there. So now we're going to maybe take some people's residences for TIF projects to build more mobility and transfer bicycles, transportation plan, to get people down there in downtown. I drove that area today, and unless I took the wrong turn somewhere, a lot of nice houses there and a nice park area, including Dewey Park, if you look at the big picture, is going to go away because of this development when you look at the whole thing. A lot of people don't have time to read all of this lawfare stuff. I don't understand most of it. I was hoping there'd be some Leavenworth Association people here today to talk about it, but maybe they haven't really been informed and haven't thought about from the big picture, that's what's happened here. I remember a nice restaurant that used to be right on Farnham Street there. Been vacant for a long time, but it looks like we're building on that now. Getting ready for the Turner Park thing. And that's the overall master plan, but you don't know it unless you follow it every week. Unless you get out and drive the neighborhoods, you don't know this. I know this because I'm afraid you're going to be in my neighborhood real soon. And I'd like to stop some of that before it happens to me. Thank you.
Any other opponents to these items?
Hello, Roz Rao, 517 South 86th Street. Again, not officially opposing this, just another clarification. So these 15 new for sale units, would those be homes for businesses? What would those exactly be when they were constructed? And how much money would they be asking for in the sale? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 51, an ordinance levying a special tax assessment for Weeds Group 2025-01.
Public hearing on number 51 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 52, an ordinance levying a special tax assessment for Litter Removal Group 2025-02.
Public hearing on number 52 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 53, an ordinance to accept the bid of Choppers Lawn Service to provide grounds maintenance services for the El Dorado subdivision.
Public hearing on number 53 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 54, an ordinance to accept the bid of Alexander Lawn and Landscape to provide grounds maintenance services for the Willowwood subdivision.
Public hearing on number 54 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 55, an ordinance to approve a construction manager at risk agreement with Kiewit Building Group for the construction of the Tranquility Park Multi-Sports Complex. A is communication and opposition.
Public hearing on number 55 is today. Proponents, please.
Hello, Eric Rump representing Kiewit Building Group, 1550 Mike Fahey Street, here for any questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Eric Casper with JEO Consulting Group, 11213 Davenport Street, Omaha. Just here for any questions that you might have on this as well.
John Williams, City of Omaha Parks and Recreation Department. I'm a park planner in the department and available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 56, an ordinance to approve a First Amendment to the business property lease agreement with East Campus Realty LLC for the Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Public hearing on number 56 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Deborah Ward, Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau, 120 South 31st Avenue. This is an amendment to our current lease. It will allow us to expand by 715 square feet our Midtown Crossing location. This will accommodate current and future growth. The expansion will add 2 traditional offices and another 4 flexible workspace stations and provide us with more storage space. East Campus Realty will pay for all of the build-out. In exchange, we're agreeing to pay $1 more per square foot for the remainder of the lease, which total amount is $142,000 more. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Non-action items. Items 57 through 67 do not require a public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Bagley. Harding. Hug. Johnson. Melton.
Yes.
Rowe. Mr. President?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 4:09.